right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nihilist Wrestling episode 11. I am your host, Ash Manson. Yeah, I know, I have been gone for 2 weeks now. I was back in my home state of Minnesota. Go Timberwolves. I know we're down 0-3, but hey, this is something that only happens to us every 20 years. We make the Western Conference Finals, so my fingers are crossed. You know how it goes. I've had some exciting news in my personal life, but we're not really talking about that on the internet just yet. So you can speculate about that. Otherwise, a lot has happened in the world of wrestling. We have had 2 pay-per-views. We have had WWE King and Queen of the Ring, and we have had AEW Double or Nothing. Yes, I know I said pay-per-views. I might occasionally use the term premium live event, but I guarantee you I will always say pay-per-view. I'm sorry, I grew up in the 90s. What can I say? After AEW Double or Nothing, you know what? I've had this talking point prepared for the better part of 2 weeks now. And after that pay-per-view, I feel so vindicated to the point where I don't even feel like I need to mention it anymore. But, you know, since I've been waiting for it for so long just to get it out of my system, I think we're going to go ahead and talk about it. AEW haters, you are full of shit. Yes, that felt good to say. Look, normally I lead with love for pro wrestling, but every once in a while you just gotta call a spade a spade. AEW haters are absolutely, positively full of shit. Now, I'm not talking about people who just, prefer WWE to AEW. That's fine. One of them's pro wrestling, one of them's sports entertainment. You're entitled to your preferences. But I'm talking about, the people that, keep posting pictures of the hard camera side at AEW events and keep talking about the ratings and how they're dropping and how Tony Khan is out of control and needs to be removed from booking. People that are just very toxically against AEW. Just, being so concerned about these business metrics that don't have anything to do with or shouldn't have anything to do with your pro wrestling fandom. AEW has had 2 excellent pay-per-views in a row. Dynasty, I thought, was a very, very good pay-per-view, and Double or Nothing was one of the better pay-per-views they have ever done in the history of the company. And that's saying something because they, for my money, have never missed on pay-per-view. And listen, I'm not promoting tribalism here. I'm not saying yay AEW, boo WWE. What I will say is, in my opinion, WWE's last 2 pay-per-views, Backlash and King and Queen of the Ring, were decent, but skippable. That's how I feel about both of them. I enjoyed the watch. If I didn't watch it, I wouldn't feel like I was missing much. Dynasty, phenomenal. Double or Nothing was so fucking good. And it reminded me of, why I am such an AEW fan. And the one thing that really, I thought, hammered it home was the return of MJF. And there was all this speculation that MJF was WWE bound. I'd also read reports saying that he had re-signed with AEW a long time ago. I felt like in my heart he was staying with AEW. It was all but confirmed, and it was 100% confirmed at Double or Nothing. But just what he hiked up his pants and had them zoom in right below his calf where he got that tattoo that said "Bet on yourself" and had the AEW logo on it. I was just it made me so happy just because MJF, I feel like if he went to WWE, he could have gotten, not quite, but somewhat like the Cody Rhodes. Maybe a better example would be the Jade Cargill treatment. We just signed a massive star, and they would be promoting the shit out of it just to kind of rub it in AEW's face and say, hey, we got one. I think if MJF would have went to WWE, they would have made him a massive star. But in AEW, MJF has the opportunity to be one of the faces of the company. And I feel like whether it's MJF versus Adam Cole, hopefully Adam Cole gets well soon so we can finally have that feud. More realistically, it'll probably be MJF versus Swerve, and there's all kinds of history there. That will be like the primary feud that carries AEW into the next couple years, maybe. The pay-per-view was excellent, guys. Like, there was a triple main event, right? And none of those three matches, and I'm talking about Swerve versus Christian Cage. Big shout out to Christian Cage. Glad he didn't win. Glad Swerve kept the title, but big fan of Christian. We all knew what that match was, and I said this last week. We know Christian's not going to win that match. Swerve is a relatively new champion, and they need to build his reign to give him some credibility, but they picked someone who can make an entertaining program despite the fact that you know that Swerve is going to win that match. And the other part of the triple main event was Mercedes Moné versus Willow Nightingale, which of course had a long story behind with the New Japan Strong Women's Championship and all that, and Mercedes getting hurt in that match while she was absolutely on a roll. Mercedes coming to AEW. I heard whisperings that was going to be the main event, and at the time I thought that was the right call, but as that show continued to flow, I think ultimately they made the right call by making the Anarchy in the Arena the main event. I think they absolutely made the right call by having Mercedes take the title off of Willow, because I don't really think that hurts Willow. Willow was put in a great spot, competing with one of the biggest women's stars of this era. I think they elevate the TBS championship to be a very desirable championship by having Mercedes Moné hold it. And I think they did the same thing with putting the international title on Will Ospreay, the same way they did with putting the continental title on Kazuchika Okada. They're making these titles mean something by putting big stars, like putting the titles on the big stars. So I think they're doing an excellent job with all of that. The way that the Elite defeated Team AEW, again, that was absolutely the right call. It's starting to give me, and I said this not last week, but last episode, the Elite is kind of starting to give me that NWO when they had Eric Bischoff kind of vibe. Like, we're the renegades, we're the outcasts, we're the bad guys, but we also have the power, the EVPs on their side. I will continue to do victory laps about how showing that backstage footage with CM Punk and Jack Perry helped elevate Jack Perry, and they had Jack get the pin for the match, which was again excellent. Everything about it, all this being said, all this praise that I'm heaping on the triple main event, none of that was the reason I ordered that pay-per-view. The match that I wanted to see the most was Adam Edge Copeland versus Malachi Black. My only slight criticism about that match, which I absolutely loved that match, my only slight criticism is that I thought that Malachi should have went over. But my thinking when I saw it was, well, maybe it's not over. The match would just, they would have another match down the line. It kind of seemed like it, but then we just got the unfortunate news that Adam Copeland is injured. I believe he has a fractured tibia, I believe was the injury, and he's going to have surgery and vacate his TNT championship. It's so easy to say in hindsight that they should have put it on Malachi, but I do believe that Malachi should have won that match. That being said, the match itself, again, excellent. The way they had Edge come out to South of Heaven by fucking Slayer, the same way that he did at WrestleMania, and they gave him that Brood entrance. It was altered a little bit, but they had the red lights and the flame and all that. Oh my god, it was perfect. And they had a Brood graphic on the Titantron, and now they put out Brood t-shirts, and they had Gangrel do that run-in, like, under the ring and all that. Like, I'm gushing. You can tell I am just a happy wrestling fan, having watched Double or Nothing. The show made me so happy. Especially since, like, when Edge was in WWE and he started the Judgment Day, I was just thinking, this is what I want to see. I want to see Edge go down to that dark place. The thing that got me into him to begin with, like he was the Enigma for a short period of time, and then he was that dark, brooding vampire with Gangrel and Christian. That's what made me a fan of Edge like 25 years ago. Over 25 years ago now. And that's what drew me to him, and it seemed like WWE was starting to tap into that again. And then LOL, JK, Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes are hurt. We need a babyface. Fuck the Judgment Day. Let's just throw Balor in there, kick Edge out. It was sloppy. It was dumb. It was one of the biggest recent creative missteps in WWE recent history. We're kind of we were getting to see kind of AEW's version of what I wanted to see out of Adam Copeland. Like him going to that dark spot to pay a tribute to that early part of his career that got me interested in him. He was saying, "Hey, wouldn't it be fun if I beat you, Malachi, and the House of Black joins me?" And we actually saw for a split second, Buddy Matthews and Brody King stood shoulder to shoulder with Adam Copeland, making us think, "Oh no, is this going to happen? Is the House of Blood going to be a thing?" And then, of course, they snapped out of it and they helped Malachi, which is probably ultimately a good thing because, hey, Adam has his own backup through the ring. Gangrel came, not looking all that much older than he did all those years ago. Guy looks great for, especially for being in his 50s and all that. Looks pretty much like we remember him, hitting those impalers and all that, reuniting 2/3 of the Brood. And so it seems like AEW has the rights to the name The Brood. They have Adam Copeland on the roster. Gangrel isn't signed to AEW to my knowledge, but he is available, and they have Christian Cage on the roster. We could actually see a Brood reunion in AEW. We could actually see House of Black versus the Brood match in AEW. That makes me so excited to think about. There's the way that AEW, since its inception, has always not only acknowledged wrestling's past, but paid tribute to it when appropriate and given it its proper importance in the context of AEW storylines. That's just something that I have always appreciated so much about the company. And WWE is coming around to that. They are starting to acknowledge the past that didn't happen in WWE. They're starting to give props to wrestlers that aren't under contract. They're not completely ignoring the history of wrestlers that are currently on the AEW roster. WWE is making reference to Owen Hart. And that does a lot for kind of restoring the good faith of that for WWE, but AEW has been right in all of that. And ultimately, here's what I mean when I say the haters are full of shit. When AEW first came on the scenes, there was all this fanfare, and for a good year to 2 years, it seemed like they could do no wrong. It really seemed like the first real chink in the armor was when Cody Rhodes defected and then eventually joined WWE. But here is my contention. If you liked AEW at its inception, if you're open to the idea of liking AEW. Because, like, let's face it, it's not for everyone. It's a little bit more niche in its presentation. But if you're open to the idea of liking AEW and you're not enjoying what AEW is doing right now, I think you're letting the online echo chamber influence you. You might have your own reasons where you think I'm wrong, but I see all this shit being talked about AEW on the internet, and even at its worst, I was like, this is exaggerated, this is overblown, and there was some legitimate criticism, and I will say, there have been, like, peaks and valleys. I don't think the shows have ever been bad, but there have been times where it dipped a little bit in quality. But if you have not, in these past couple months, if you have not, like, gotten back on the train, and maybe you're just not watching and you're just seeing all this shit people are talking online, and you don't think that it's worth, like, coming back to AEW, let me be the one to tell you, you are missing out. AEW is putting on some excellent programming right now. You can tell, like, by the excitement in my voice. It's really, like, reinvigorating, like, my passion for wrestling. WWE had all this momentum going into WrestleMania, and I think it is just my opinion. They've fallen a little flat post-WrestleMania. They've still put on some good shows, but they have not been able to keep that hype up post-WrestleMania. AEW was maybe struggling a little bit during WrestleMania season, but now they're back, and I love this. I love that it goes in cycles. Like, WWE gets hot, then AEW gets hot. Sometimes they're hot at the same time, and I just, as a pro wrestling fan, I love it. I'm so happy about it, and hell yeah. MJF bet on himself. He's going to be one of the faces of AEW for a long time. Hell yeah, bet on yourself, MJF. And I'm going on record right now. I would bet on AEW. Hell yeah, they're doing some great work. I just hope that they keep it up. And now, we're going to talk about WWE and King and Queen of the Ring a little bit. Speaking of shit talkers on the internet, I've been seeing a little bit of anti-Cody Rhodes sentiment start to creep up a little bit. And I will say, like, emphatically, this is a vocal minority. But it's not, like, completely without cause. Now, I'm not with them. I love Cody Rhodes. You are, like, unlikely to find short of Dave LaGreca, you're probably not going to find many bigger fans of Cody Rhodes than me. But there is a challenge here. And I've said this many times. Like, Cody Rhodes' story was winning the WWE Championship. Now he has the WWE Championship, and he's the white bread babyface. How does he keep his title run compelling? And here's another thing on top of it. This isn't Cody's fault at all. I absolutely hate the fact that WWE does this. They tend to book, like, WrestleMania main events a year ahead of time, and we already have Cody Rhodes versus The Rock penciled in for next year. A lot can change, but that seems to be the prevailing narrative, is that it's going to be Cody Rhodes versus The Rock next year. Now, on top of Cody Rhodes already having to overcome the fact that he's the babyface that already has his wildest hopes and dreams come true, he's got to keep that interesting, but he also has to keep all these programs interesting when people can practically guarantee that Cody is still going to be champion at WrestleMania next year. This style of booking so trivializes an entire year of content when you make these decisions about WrestleMania so far ahead of time. And like I said, a lot can change, but this has been a tendency of WWE in the past, and it's just kind of like one of those things that kind of makes me happy that there's an alternative, because this predictive booking is not something I have historically appreciated. That being said, I did not watch the Cody Rhodes versus Logan Paul match in its entirety. I did see a highlight reel of it, and it seemed like it was a great match. The only problem is you could not get me to care about that matchup. I mean, you probably could. Maybe theoretically there's a way, but just on paper, Logan Paul, he's great wrestler, big star. I don't give a shit. You know he's not going to beat Cody. Not a big fan of Logan's personality. He's so good at being a heel that even I dislike him. But it seems like that match was made, as I said 2 weeks ago. It's a star on star kind of novelty match that's not going to have any lasting implications. It was just to have the big names on the marquee, and it just was not that compelling of a program to me. That being said, there were some things on the King and Queen of the Ring, pay-per-view that were compelling, especially because it seems like they are trying to put some shine on the winners of the tournament. They are giving the King and Queens, respectively, a title shot at SummerSlam. And I'm of two minds about that. I mean, I'm totally in favor of that. But I'm kind of wondering, like, should they have advertised that from the get-go? Maybe. But ultimately, like, the fact that they didn't advertise that till the very end, like, it kind of, like, what am I trying to say? Like, sometimes you know the results of tournament-like matches or of number one contender matches because these matchups make more sense against your current champion. Since they didn't have us thinking about that the entire time, it could theoretically make the winner of the tournaments a little bit more unpredictable because we didn't know what was for a championship match. That being said, SummerSlam is not until August, I believe, so a lot can change before then, but as it stands now, Nia Jax is Queen of the Ring and Gunther is King of the Ring. I was really pulling for Lyra. I get why they made Nia the Queen of the Ring, I suppose. I'm not her biggest fan, but, I can't deny that this run of hers has been exponentially better than anything that she has done in WWE previously. She's kind of growing on me a little bit, but I mean, there's a lot of nonsense bashing on the internet, but at the same time, she has injured a good number of people in the past. A lot of her past work was not all that compelling. I'm trying to give her a chance. We'll see. I'm not totally sold on her again. But I'm open-minded. Give me new evidence and I change my opinion. So the jury is out on Nia's current WWE run. As far as Gunther goes, I mean, absolutely. I don't think they're going to change his ring name, call him King Gunther as they've been doing in the past. But he just, as I said 2 weeks ago, he seems like the right personality type to be the King of the Ring. He's all about love for this sacred sport. Well, now he is the king of this sacred sport, and it is looking like, I mean, as I keep saying, a lot can happen, but mapping our path to SummerSlam, we still have Clash at the Castle, which Drew McIntyre could very well knock off Damian Priest, so we could be looking at Gunther versus either Damian Priest or Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship. Either way, I think that's a pretty compelling match. I was a little bit bummed that they did not debut the new Wyatt family or the Wyatt Six. There was a graphic that was showed that had the date for the King and Queen of the Ring pay-per-view, and apparently if you followed the QR code that was presented during the King and Queen of the Ring pay-per-view, it showed the date of the Raw after the Clash of the Castle pay-per-view. I think you can only hype something for so long before you have to deliver. I think they really need this. They could really use some intrigue in their program. Not to say it's bad, but it could use a little bit of a boost. I really want to see it. I want to see who they select. I want to see how Bo Dallas carries himself as either Uncle Howdy or whatever character he will be portraying. But I guess we have to wait, and who knows? It might come the Clash at the Castle or the Raw after, and we might just get a QR code that says the date of SummerSlam or the Raw after that. I would rather they do it right than do it quickly, but they can do it right and a little bit quicker, in my opinion. Well, I'm going to reserve judgment until I see that play out. I'm just kind of jonesing for it. I want to see it. One thing I have to say, like, I watched Raw last night. I'm recording this on Tuesday. I'll probably have this up on Tuesday. One thing that I find incredibly compelling is the angle with the Alpha Academy, because I think it is simultaneously establishing Chad Gable as a monster heel and Otis as like a massive babyface, and the fans have always been behind Otis, but I find like the Alpha Academy kind of similar to like they're often associated with like the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile, right? And while I have nothing against any of them, for me it's just really hard to root for the jocks. They're like, athletic singlet wearing like that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Just for me, as a darker heavy metal guy, you just kind of think high school, like those were the kind of people that didn't like people like me. Again, this is just personally. But I have had a really hard time getting behind Chad Gable or the Alpha Academy. Even when they were doing that stuff with his daughter and all that, it wasn't really tugging on my heartstrings. I was a lot more behind Sami Zayn, who's incredibly easy to get behind. I was happy that they went with Sami versus Gunther at WrestleMania, not Chad. But as this situation with Alpha Academy like continues to simmer, and they continue to kind of do this like MJF Wardlow kind of thing, where Otis could easily drop Chad Gable where he stands, and he would get a massive turn, but he's just like, this is my boy. He's kind of like he got me a tag team title. He kept me relevant and all that. And Chad Gable and Otis are actually like real life longtime friends, so that's a factor in all of that too. It's really making Chad Gable compelling in a way that I don't really think he has been in the past. And I loved American Alpha and all that, but at the end of the day, again, they were just some jocks that were really good at wrestling. He's found this character, and through his heel turn, in my opinion, it's just made him so much more interesting. And Otis is that big, lovable guy that people will definitely pop for once he makes that turn. So I gotta applaud them on what they're doing with Alpha Academy. I think they really turned that one around. Now we're gonna talk about my favorite thing in WWE right now. My favorite stable in WWE, the Judgment Day. I got mixed feelings about all this because the Judgment Day is my crew. Like, it doesn't, like, I root for them no matter what. I feel represented by them as like a gothic heavy metal head. They're my group. I have like 4 different Judgment Day shirts, hats. Like Dominic is probably my favorite active wrestler in WWE right now. They're my crew. But you start to see fractures form where Finn Balor and JD McDonough, and before Dom got hurt, Dominic, like, they couldn't buy a win. They keep getting beat. Damian Priest seems to be the only one that can win a match. And then, of course, along with Rhea before she got hurt. But Mommy's gone. And El Campeon is trying to keep it together. But the other guys aren't really pulling their weight. Not only is Dominic not pulling his weight, but, well, I mean, he's hurt, but but not only was he not pulling his weight prior to getting hurt, but he been fucking up helping Liv Morgan win the Women's World Championship. And of course, at this point, Dominic has plausible deniability because he really clearly slid that chair over to Becky Lynch. But Liv, like, you used the chair when Becky hesitated, and then hit that Oblivion, won her title, and then, of course, we had the end of Raw, where Braun Strowman, who's been chasing JD McDonough, that whole running segment was funny as hell, especially Braun was like, me get bobblehead man. That was entertaining. I love, like, recurring, like, when they have stories that, like, keep running throughout the show. I'm a big fan of that. So I got a kick out of Braun chasing JD. So Braun's like running around the ring. He runs into Dom. Dom slams the cage door shut on Becky. And then Liv crawls out of the ring and retains her Women's World Championship, the title that did belong to Rhea Ripley. Then Dom is like, oh no, I fucked up again. And to close out Raw, Liv Morgan makes out with Dominic Mysterio. It was forced though. She goes and she takes Dom and says, come here. And you know where this was going. There was this picture, I posted this on the Nihilist Wrestling Facebook, where there's a picture of Liv posing, and you could see a little purple bandana coming out from her pocket, or you could see on a Raw in the past, like her and Dominic both entered the same room at different times. Like, you know where this is headed. And the reason I'm conflicted about this is I don't want anything to happen to the Judgment Day. When your crew is, like, on top, and I guess they're not really on top anymore, but they still have, the World Heavyweight Championship. You just want them to stay there. I don't want them to break up. That would sting a little bit. But I think part of, like, what makes wrestling compelling is that you don't always get what you want. And sometimes you have to, deal with a little heartbreak as far as, like, your favorites not getting along or not getting what they want. And it really seems like Dom is going to eventually, now he has plausible deniability, but I wouldn't doubt that he intentionally helps Liv sometime in the future, or shows some kind of affection towards Liv, and betrays Mommy. And nobody likes Dominic anyway. Everyone wants Mommy to drop her Dom, but she wouldn't do that, despite the fact that he had nuclear heat, and she is one of the most popular acts in WWE, regardless of gender right now. It's a compelling story. Again, I don't want it to happen, but it's a compelling story. And it's a reason to tune into Raw, next week. I think that Raw has been a little bit better than SmackDown lately because of the kind of things that we're talking about. But SmackDown hasn't happened this week yet, so we have that to look forward to. NXT tonight, Dynamite on Wednesday. I'm happy that pro wrestling overall's doing pretty good right now. But hey, I had 2 weeks off. I have a lot of stuff built up. We're not going to go that long next time. I'm going to get these episodes coming out a little bit more consistently. But yeah, I'm starting to go a little long, so we're going to cut this off for now. But hey, if you got this far, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. If you got this far again, may as well throw me a like and a subscribe. I will answer any comments that aren't like stupid and troll-like that I get of my comment section. And even if you are a stupid troll, drop a comment and boost my algorithm. Why not? But until next time, revel in what you are.